to everybody. I'm Amy of Amy J's Creations. Thank you for joining me today. I have several new subscribers. Thank you to a shout out from Rustic Threads Stitching. Very cool. Very appreciated. I am now subscribed to her channel as well. That was very sweet, and I'm happy to have you here. In case you were wondering, maybe nobody was, the J is for my middle name, and because Amy's Creations was already taken, so Amy J's it is. Okay, I have a little bit of everything today for you, and it is a little bit of everything. So hopefully this will be nice and fast. Okay, first up, I have two finishes. They go together, so I'm going to show them together. They're itsy bitsy, teeny tiny little winter pillows. Now, I could have done like added fabric, put some cute buttons or some snowflake charms, which I have. But somehow the itty bittiness of these just tickled my fancy. I always have loved things that were in miniature. And so here we go. So cute. I stitched these up last year and just now finished them. This is the material I used on the back. Kind of matches what's on the front, opposite view. And then I had this little yarn I bought it to like crochet with and make something super soft and fuzzy because it's so nice and fuzzy and soft. It is impossible to crochet with because all the little fuzzies, you can't see where your hook is supposed to go. So it's in my finishing box. The thing I'm most proud of is, come on, look at that cute little pom-pom on top of that hat. That's pretty awesome. Okay, now, where can you get these patterns, you say? Because, oh my heck, they are so adorable. I know. I will tell you, they are free, so that's awesome. They are I downloaded 2 different years of free patterns. They're from Rainbow Gallery. One set, they were both designed by Erica Michaels, who was actually Linda Stoltz. Designed for Rainbow Gallery. They're supposed to use like their fuzzy whisper threads and all that stuff, but I don't have an LNS. I don't have access to that. So I just picked my own colors that looked Christmassy to me, or wintry, not Christmassy, but wintry. There's the first one is called Cross Stitcher Surprise Series. And then there's another one, the 2003 Cross Stitcher Surprise Series. They are older, but as of like 2 years ago when I downloaded these and printed them off, they were still on their website and still free. So how I got them so small is they are stitched on 18 count Aida. It's that gray polka dot that I ordered from Back Order Shop one time I was there in America. Yeah. Super cute. One from one year, one from another year. I cannot really tell you what exact colors I used because I have a whole floss bin full of no-name floss. And I went through and used a lot of that. But I think you saw those close enough. You can kind of get your own things, choose your own colors. Or you can use the ones that were recommended. Like again, I don't have an LNS, so I couldn't get the fun whisper threads and stuff. Okay, so that's my finishes. I don't have a whole lot of winter stitching. Those are the first. No, that's a lie. I have another one that I should get and show it. It's down in the basement, 3 floors down. I'm not gonna go get that. Our house is not 3 stories. We're in an apartment building and we're on the top level. And our storage area is down in the basement. Anyhow, it's down there of snowmen. It says welcome and it's a little cute snowman family. But those are my first 2 more recent winter finishes. I don't normally decorate for January. We all kind of enjoy the, so empty and big and peaceful in here. But I thought a few little pieces in my tiered tray that's out all the time anyway could be kind of fun. So that's the start of that. I didn't even put them out this year. I just barely finished them like 10 minutes before filming this video. But I'll add to them. So next year it should be kind of cute. Okay. So then the next thing I want to show is my progress on my other WIPGO piece. So the numbers were 2 and 19 for January. And I showed you my True North sampler from Twin Pink Primitives last video. And so this, and then the next number 2, was this pattern right here in this Stoney Creek. My mother had started it. I had worked on it for a bit, and then I set it aside to do her Christmas tree. The Oh Christmas Tree by Lavender and Lace. And she got that and loves it and is super happy. And my dad framed it for her because he works with wood, and she loves it, and it's hung up all year round. So that makes me happy. But I now want to get this piece done. And so I put it on my WIPGO. I put it on my WIPGO board twice. This is the first time it was called. And my goal was to work on it as well 10 days. And I did. And I got a lot of progress done. I did all of this that's here in the pot. I did all those flowers on the bottom. And I did this whole section of skirt and her little boot. On her, there's pretty much just a couple stitches here and there, random confetti stitches of white to fill in. There's a little bit on her sleeve of blue still, like, I don't know, 12, 15 stitches or something. And then outlining, backstitching. And then I need to fill in all the flower bits. So it's on the board, my WIPGO board again, for another 10 days. And I am absolutely positive that I will get this done in those 10 days. It might not even take me the full 10 days. And that makes me so happy. So, so happy. I'm almost going to be going over to the States this summer, and by myself or with one kid to help him get started in high school over there, his senior year of high school. And so I'll be able to, my goal is to hand deliver that to my mommy. So that is a super fun development. WIPGO is the greatest for that, because it was like, I love to cross things off a list and I love to achieve goals. And so putting that as a WIPGO goal gave me the extra motivation I needed to just, because it's not really my style of stitching. It's not something I would stitch for myself. And so it was kind of hard to find motivation to work on it. And so this has been great. Perfect. Okay, so since I've finished both my WIPGO goals, yay! For the last little bit of the month, am stitching something for the season. And that is this cute, adorable, let's see, can you see it there? Yeah. Little conversation heart candy. This is a free pattern from Fat Quarter Shop. It is on their blog. You can find it there. This is also on 18 count Aida, just plain 18 count white Aida. And I am going to be, the plan is they each take about, depending on how much time I have, a day and a half to stitch. And I want to stitch up several colors. And at first I was thinking maybe I'll just stitch them in a row. But after seeing these little pillows, I think I want to make these into itty bitty little pillows to just kind of sprinkle throughout my tiered tray. Because I have several other Valentine pillows. And I think I showed them. I'm getting close to being my year anniversary on Flosstube, which is kind of crazy. And I'm pretty sure I showed those Valentine pillows in one of my first ever Flosstubes. So anyway, I want to make these into little pillows They're like seriously so small to go with those. Very fun. All right. The other thing is I have been doing my 25/7 stitching. So every day I'll stitch for 25 minutes on this project, and then I switch, and the rest of the time is working on whatever my WIPGO project is. And that is this Hometown Holiday Series. I cannot believe how much progress I have made just by stitching 25 minutes a day. And there were even a couple of days that I had to skip, but then there were other days that I stitched a little bit longer, but not much. I'm totally fine with that because I did this, finished this whole schoolhouse, and now I've started on this next one, which is, let me consult it. It is the post office. It's the post office next door. All right. And in my comments, I had a question. She's getting ready to stitch Hometown Holidays herself. She likes how I've done it all in one piece, and she wants a little more detail. So I'm going to go into a little more detail on that. This is on a 28 count fabric that I coffee tea dyed myself. It was started out, it was a light blue, and then I coffee tea dyed it. Okay. When I started this, I am notoriously horrible at being able to figure out how big fabric needs to be. So I had like a yard of this, and so what I did is before I cut the fabric, I stitched the entire first row, stitched the church and the firehouse, because I knew I wanted those 3 rows. So I knew how long it was going to be, and I knew how tall it would be. And then I cut the fabric. That's probably not the best way to do it, but it was the best way for me. How I figured out and determined which houses I could use was on each pattern, let's see, right here, you'll see it has a stitch count of how high and how wide. And so I kind of ordered, except for the quilt shop that came out a little bit later, and the needlework shop or something like that, I had almost all of them. I had ordered all of them because I started this in 2019 that were out then. And I picked through and wrote down all the stitch lengths and then added it up so that each row was about the same length. This middle row is slightly shorter, but the top and the bottom row are going to end up being only 1 stitch off from each other in length. Now, what I have to do is on one of the patterns, so you see how there's 2 trees in between these 2 buildings? One of the patterns that's going to go down here has 2 trees as well on the pattern. I am cutting off one of those trees in order to make it fit because I wanted more houses. So that's one of the differences I made. The second difference that I made, change, is some of the patterns I decided didn't have a personal connection to me. So I left those off. Like the clockmaker. I have that pattern. I bought it. I will maybe stitch it into something, but it didn't need to go into my village because I don't have a connection. But the diner I put in because my first job was working at a Denny's near SDSU and waiting on the drunk frat boys. Then there's a toy shop because obviously we buy toys all the time for all our children. Grandma's house. There's a bookstore because I love books and I'm a librarian. We go to church all the time. My uncle and a couple cousins at least are firemen. And I always thought that was really cool. My uncle let us, as the high school yearbook staff, we got to take photos once. We went down to the big station and got to climb all over the fire truck and take photos, and it was really cool. So I wanted to keep that. Obviously school, I'm the lice lady at school. My children go to school. So I needed to have that. So those, I included some of the designs. I pick and chose. These are not all the hometown holidays because those are the things that were personal to me and I wanted to include them. Secondly, I had intended to put the carolers because I love to sing. I have fond memories of going caroling actually as a youth in the States. It's not a thing here. And immediately I noticed that they were not to scale. Like, do you see how small those people are? Okay. But the carolers are as big as the house. That was going to look stupid. So I took those out. I will stitch them. I will put them on my tree as an ornament or in a dough bowl, but they're not going on my pattern. Then one of the other changes I made is I wanted this to have a more Christmassy feel. So in a lot of the places where brown house is called for, I have changed it to a red color. For instance, I'm thinking about this house right here. This one, what I did is I left the brown on here, but I changed everything else to a more pure red. Just so it would have more red and greens on it, more Christmassy, without being super Christmassy. I mean, there's little Christmas decorations and stuff. Then, as you can see, I've added backstitching because these do not have backstitching. What I used was 3371 DMC, one thread, one strand of floss, and just stitched around. Now, what's funny is when you start adding backstitching and you see how it makes everything pop, you add it in more and more and more places. You cannot stop. So, that's what I ended up doing. And I think it made a real difference. Some of these are not finished. I haven't backstitched the name of the place yet. Because I'm thinking about changing the names again to making it. So this is Hometown, but I might put Denny's up here. Denny's Hometown. And like the name of a favorite toy store that we always go to in Appenzell. And I might change this from bookstore to like Borders or something. Just to go with my memories. So that's one of the other changes. So that's and you can see where I haven't backstitched and then where I have, how much different it looks. The other thing I experimented with is, you'll see up here, can you see? Yeah. I've added some white backstitching to the trees to make them look snowy. Because if you will notice, there is snow all on the ground, and yet there's none on the trees. And that kind of bothered me. So I experimented with adding a little bit of snow here and there. But then, and like I did it on this tree. I started on this tree. But it wasn't giving me the look that I really wanted. And I'm thinking about taking some white acrylic paint, and I have fabric medium to mix with it, and just very, very lightly pouncing some on the very edges of the trees randomly to make it look like snow. I am going to stitch a tree on a scrap piece of fabric and try it out there first before I ruin my project. But I won't do that until I'm all the way completely done. Because I have to kind of let it sit around in my mind for a while. But yeah, so that, I hope, answers all of your questions. If you have any more about this project, please let me know. If I had to do it over again, I might have chosen a 32 count, so it would be a bit smaller. But at the same time, my idea was I want to finish this in sort of a quilt, wall hanging quilt, and to be a statement piece on the wall for Christmas. So I was fine with it being really big. But like, yeah, it's a good meter wide, over a yard, I would think. I don't have anything to measure here, but it's pretty big. So there is that. I will continue doing the 24/7 with that. I have a feeling with how quickly that schoolhouse and then how much I got on, oh sorry, hair in my eye, done on the next building, the post office. I have a feeling this is going to be done by summer, which is great because then that'll give me plenty of time to finish it and get it completely ready for Christmas without being stressed. So there's that. Okay. The last thing I have to mention is WIPGO numbers were called. And I am so excited because on my board, so the numbers were 5 and 17. And it just so happens that on my board, those are my 2 Star Wars pieces that are in the same project bag. And as a reminder, they are this Darth Vader silhouette scene and, Yoda silhouette scene, and then, yes, the Darth Vader silhouette scene. These are from the Oh My Stitches online Etsy store. Very awesome. I'm super happy with it, and I am going to be stitching them both on this 32 count opalescent white. Let's see, can you see that? Yeah, opalescent white fabric even weave that I got from Zweigart. And again, because I am not sure how big the final pieces are going to be, I've got one giant piece of fabric, the whole half yard that she sold me, and I am going to start one on this side and one on this side so that I will for sure have enough room, and then when I get them farther enough along, I will cut them. And I know, people, there are generators, count generators, size generators, free even online, that you can use to help you figure out how big your fabric needs to be. But I just don't, Math and I do not get along. And for most of my cross-stitching life, I have cut the fabric way too skimpy. I mean, I like a tight edge, okay, don't get me wrong. But like, I've cut it, I think I showed you on my Noah's Ark piece. I cut it so that the last row of stitching was on the actual edge of the fabric. There was no more Ada, no more fabric left to do anything with. It was gone. And bless him, there was a framing store in San Diego that we used to go to when I lived there, and he put it on sticky board, mounted it on sticky board, so that, because he had nothing to wrap around. That is not the only piece. And so thusly, I'm not cutting that fabric until I've got some stitches in and I know for sure that I've got a big enough piece. I don't like I said, I don't like a huge giant border, but I want to have some border. Okay, and that's it. So that's my plans. That's what I'm going to keep going forward with. I will, like I said, I'll stitch a few more of those hearts until February 1st, and then I'll go back to my WIPGO stitching. I did want to do a couple shout outs. These are people that I found either because they subscribe to me, or through the Under 1000 Sub Club, or through the Flosstube group on Facebook. RogueMamaStitcher, and the R in the Rogue, the M in Mama, and the S in Stitch are all capitalized. Really like her. She's got a lot of really pretty projects. I like watching people who do stitch projects similar to me. I also really enjoy watching people who have completely different stuff, because it's like going to an art museum for me, and I just think it's really cool. But people who stitch only samplers are not my jam. Yeah. Anyway, okay. And then the other one is Sarah King from Our Stitching Kingdom. If you type in Sarah King and then Our Stitching Kingdom, she will come up. She has this amazing whip parade, which normally sometimes with parades, I have to fast forward them. But she has so many cool, awesome, different projects of stuff I've never seen before. And she's working on Our Lady of the Flag. It looks fantastic. She's awesome. Sometimes her little daughter comes on, sometimes not. Very, very, very cool. So those three: Rustic Thread Stitching, RogueMamaStitcher, and Sarah King, Our Stitching Kingdom. Those are my shout outs for this week. And now I'll give you a quick little life update for the end. I'll leave it at the end in case you want to leave. If you want to leave, thanks for stopping by. I think the little personal tidbits are the best part of Flosstube. So this week we had a COVID scare, our first real COVID scare. There's a girl, a family that goes to our church. Their daughter, then the mom and another daughter tested positive for COVID. And we found out Sunday night, Monday morning maybe. And my daughter and son had been with that daughter on Wednesday evening at a youth activity. Excuse me. And she was already sick with COVID then. She didn't know, but she had the germs. And so we weren't sure what to do. But Monday night, my son, his head starts feeling kind of woozy. He's feeling a little warm. In the night, the fever goes up. So that night, I was like, Alexandra, we know you've been exposed. Noah is now sick. You need to stay home from school tomorrow until we can get him tested and make sure it's not COVID. So I took him down Tuesday afternoon to get tested, and we found a half an hour later that it was negative. And she had never had symptoms, so I sent her to school. He just had a regular flu. But throwing into that mix was Tuesday was supposed to be his orientation day for military service. Here in Switzerland, we have compulsory military service, and just before you turn 18, they have you go to an orientation day. They explain a lot of things. You go to the local military base. Ours happens to just be like three train stops away, very close. And he was supposed to do that, and they were going to show all the different branches of in the army that you could join or do or things. Anyway, and he was super sick. And you're supposed to, on the papers, you're supposed to give them notice, at least 5 days notice if you can't make it, because it's like going AWOL if you don't show up. You can end up having to pay a big fine. But it was like the night before. So I sent an email to the commandant, and they wrote me back the next morning and were like, we were checking everybody's temperatures before they came into the orientation, so he wouldn't have been allowed to attend if he had come anyway because he had a fever. No problem. We'll send you a thing in the mail of when his next orientation day is. So, nobody's getting thrown in the brig, and we'll get that taken care of later. And then yesterday I was going to film, because today is Friday. I didn't even say that. It's Friday, January 27th, 28th, I think. And normally I film on a Thursday, but my son, my oldest son, wanted to go on a long walk. One time, several years ago, he found this abandoned train station on the edge of a forest, and he wanted to go walk there again. And I thought that sounded fun, so I went with him. Now, our house is on a hill, and then you go down to a valley, and then there's another, it used to be a mountain range, but they're not really, they're hills. They're called the Albus. And there's another thing. And then you go down into the valley. And then there's another very narrow valley. And then there's some more mountains. And then you go down again and it's Lake Zurich. Okay. So we had, and basically we were walking to the trains. Madden train station was kind of in the middle. And then we had to keep walking further up and over the next mountain pass to get to an actual train station so we could come home. So my husband drove us up to the first thing. It's called the Albus Pass. You can look at it, ALBIS, if you want to Google it. Drove us up to the Albus Pass, and then we walked along the ridge of all these hills, and then went down into the valley, saw the abandoned train station, then went back up, and then down again to get onto the train. It was beautiful. There was tons of fog down below, but we were up in the sun the entire time. There was snow. It was chilly, but like I had on a t-shirt, a sweatshirt, and then another zip-up hoodie over that, and that was just perfect. There were a couple of times where I got too warm and I took the zip-up hoodie off, but other than that, it was cool, but we were walking the entire time, so that was fine. But there was, like, the sun was shining, melting the snow, but then it would get cold, so it would freeze. So a lot of the trail was icy. And, you know, when you're walking along a mountain ridge, it doesn't go straight across. It goes up and down and up and down and up. Not like a whole up, but there's a little up, a little down, and then a little up, and then a little down. So there were several times where we were kind of walking next to the path, like on the very edge, where it was not ice, holding on to trees and branches. It was just scary enough to get the adrenaline rushing and make you feel really accomplished that you had achieved something awesome, and to keep it exciting, but not so dangerous that I was like, we need to turn back, we're going to die. We had on good hiking boots, so we were okay. We had good traction. As long as there was a fine layering of snow over the ice, that actually really helped, because you could kind of, the ice gave you a little grit. And in some places, you could tell that the forester, those are what the people whose career it is to maintain all the hiking trails and forests in all of Switzerland. They had come and sprinkled sand or a little gravel on several of the paths, but not everywhere. But it was fine. But then there was this one section where it was, and especially if you're going up and it's a little icy, it's different than if you're going down. Well, this was going down. It was going down very steep, and it had a turn, and there was like a giant fallen tree, because a few years ago we had 2 really strong windstorms in a row, and lots of giant trees got blown over. So there was this giant tree laying right kind of at the curve and then a little diagonal. And I was like, if we start going down this and slip, we're going to run into that tree trunk and hurt ourselves. I don't really want a broken bone. So instead of going down the little curve, we slid down on our bumps, straight down like this. Whee! But they dried quickly. It was fine. In several places, the fallen tree trunks had fallen across the path, and in the forest that we were in, the Sihlwald, SIHL, it's a protected all natural nature preserve. So they don't, especially there's like a section they call it the core zone. that they don't want any human intervention at all. So whatever happens, happens. If there's a, lightning strikes and a tree falls down, oh well. Wind comes and blows the things over, oh well. But they had gone and cut off on either, just a chunk out of the fallen tree trunks where it crossed the path, to make the walking trail safe. But they had left the fallen tree on either side, and you literally just kind of walked through the trunk. There were a few that they had fallen. They had not cut them because they were low enough to the ground and small enough that you could just easily walk over it. But the bigger ones, they had cut a chunk out. And then there was this one tree that was gigantic. It was completely across the path, and they had not cut it. And it was too high to step over, because it was high. Too high to step over, but not high enough to go underneath. So we had to kind of hop up. I'm shorter. I'm only 5'2". So for my son, he just kind of looped his leg over and then looped his other leg over. I had to hop up with my legs on my bum and then flip one leg over and then the other leg and then slide down the other side, slide off of it. And got my rear end wet again, but it was dry by the time we saw anybody in civilization. It was absolutely beautiful. We were out walking. We left at a little after 10. We got home with the train at 4. So we were gone pretty much all day. I do have a nice, awesome blister on my pinky toe, because actually the last little bit walking down to the train station was a steep, straight shot, and there weren't stairs. It was just this walking path through the town. That did my toes in. I did come home and soak in the tub for about 40 minutes. Nice hot tub with some Epsom salts. So my legs are a little sore today, but not bad. It was beautiful, wonderful. I want to go again this summer, just to see the difference between winter and summer. So that's what we have been up to, what I have been up to, aside from stitching. I hope that you guys all have good stitching time the next little bit, and I will see you again in 2 weeks. Cheers!